Hi, it's Matt here from Go Green Autos. So I've got this Hyundai Ioniq Electric up on the lift here, and in this video I want to talk about brakes. Not specifically brakes on the Ioniq, but brakes in general on electric vehicles. So brakes on electric vehicles are absolutely no different to brakes on ICE vehicles. Brakes haven't changed for many years. You've just got a disc or a rotor, and then you've got a caliper there pushing the brake pads onto the rotor. And electric vehicles have exactly the same brakes as ICE vehicles. A lot of people get confused with regen braking. Regen braking has got nothing to do with the brakes. That's just slowing down on the electric motor, where the motor then recoups that energy and charges the battery. So while it's called braking, it is just really engine braking. But in this case, on electric vehicles, it's rather than an engine, you're slowing down on that motor. So why am I filming this video? Well, while the Ioniq is up on the lift, it's just reminded me of a bit of a bugbear I've got with brakes on electric vehicles, well, conventional brakes, and I think there's a bit of room for improvement here, because this sort of standard resistance you get of the pads rubbing on the discs, if you didn't have that on an EV and you had free wheeling or free spinning wheels, the efficiency of the vehicle would just be hugely greater. So I'm standing now next to a Renault Kangoo Electric. So on all vehicles, when you brake, the majority of your braking force is on the front wheels, because that's traditionally where the weight is. Normally a combustion engine, or in this case an electric motor, because it is front wheel drive. And consequently the back brakes don't get much use, or because unless you've got a lot of weight in a van, for example. And with an electric power drain, obviously a vehicle like this, which has got strong regen, you're hardly using the brakes. And when you do, majority of that braking is on the front. So with these Kangoos in particular, a common issue with them is the back brakes rust up, purely for lack of use. And I've had Kangoos in where I've done a brake lubrication service on the back because they're seized up, and then have driven it and seen a 1 mile per hour, or 1 mile per kilowatt hour, should I say, improvement in economy, just because the back brakes have been unseized. And before it was like driving around with a handbrake on, and of course you're going to see poor economy. And I've seen this so many times on the vans, and it's just because we're using conventional brake setup on these electric vehicles. So back to the Ioniq now. So these Hyundai Ioniqs are the most efficient electric vehicle. You can achieve sort of 1 to 1.5 miles per kilowatt hour better economy in one of these than you can in other electric cars. And in there you've got flappy pedals on the steering wheel, and you can adjust the regen, and one of the settings is off or 0. And what that allows you to do is freewheel and coast, and that really does improve efficiency. However, you are coasting with brakes which are constantly rubbing. And in this case, you can see here, there's absolutely no freewheeling at all on the back wheels, and that's completely normal. It's sort of compounded on these because they've got electronic handbrakes, and when you put the handbraking on, because there's an electric motor at the back doing up those pads, they tend to really toe up tight, and the back brakes on cars with electric handbrakes always tend to be really tight. And you notice that a lot with these, because if you go to reverse or you're in slow traffic speeds, you will often hear the brakes squealing a bit, and that's just because they're so tight. And again, you know, I'm saying this is a bugbear of mine, because if these wheels are properly freewheeled, the economy of this car would be even greater. And it's not like this is faulty, this is completely normal. This car has had many main dealers, well, 10 main dealer services actually, and the last was only a month or 2 ago. But it hasn't been used for the last 1.5 weeks or so. It's been here in the workshop, and it is true that the discs have got some surface corrosion now, because it has been sat and it's damp in the winter. So if this was driven and the pads would clean up the discs a little bit, and it may be spinning a little bit freer once it's had a bit of a drive, but there wouldn't be a huge difference with it. So just have a go with this back wheel on the other side. So this one does move a little bit more freely, but not much in it. But I am going to do a brake lubrication service on this car, even though it has recently just been serviced by Hyundai, and I'll be releasing that electric handbrake and allowing that to readjust up, because that does help, but that's only a temporary thing, because it will soon get like this again under normal driving. As I said, it's always worse on the back wheels because of the handbrake, and in particular if it's got an electric handbrake. Front wheels are generally better. This does move more freely, and actually that's connected to the motor as well, or certainly obviously to the reduction gear. But as always, there's more braking on the front wheels, so they tend to be less corroded and generally will be a little bit freer. My point is, if we could have brakes where the pads weren't in constant contact with the disc and the wheel would properly freewheel like that, then wouldn't the car be a lot more efficient? And all it would need would be some sort of spring or a piston that held the pads and just pulled the pads off the discs by a fraction of a millimetre and just allow the wheels to freewheel. We would get a considerable difference in the economy on electric vehicles. So what am I missing here? Why aren't the brake manufacturers doing this? I can understand with combustion engine vehicles there wasn't a need to, because no one was really chasing efficiency gains. But now we've got electric powertrains, this friction on the brakes or on the wheels really does cause a dragging effect. So there must be a reason why they haven't come up with a new brake design. Could it be because having those pads gently rubbing on the discs is keeping the disc clean, so therefore when you do need to use the brakes, particularly in emergency, they're going to grip better and quicker? Or could it be if there was a little gap that would increase braking time? I doubt it, to be honest, but if you've got any views on this or any ideas, please do write in the comments below. I'll be interested to hear your thoughts. So yeah, that's it. I'm going to do a brake lubrication on this car now, but any gains is going to be very short-lived, because obviously all brakes end up rubbing. It's just part of the design and the way they work. So if you like this video, please do click the thumbs up below. Also subscribe if you haven't, and also leave me your thoughts or views on this, because I really do think this is an area that can be improved and will make a huge difference on electric vehicles. I had forgotten that on the Ioniq you do get these sort of spring wire clips, or whatever you want to call them, on the rear brake pads. So I'm not 100% sure what they're doing, whether they're just anti-vibration clips. They're just, as you can see, looped between each pad, and then the caliper would normally sit over there pushing against that, or whether they are indeed there to push the pads out slightly, which I'm assuming that's what they're doing, because there is tension that way. However, in reality they do not do a thing, because if I pull this clip out, which I have already loosened with a screwdriver, you can see there is quite a lot of tension there, and it is trying to push the pads apart, but the pads do not move. And indeed I've just done the other side, and you have to hammer the pads out, because as always they're stuck or very stiff on the spring clips here on the sliders, and they just need a good wire brushing up and lubricating. So while they've attempted to do something here, because most brake pads don't have these, that does seem to be trying to push them apart, in reality they're just not strong enough and it's not doing a thing.